Hello everybody, I'm Stephanie and today I'm giving my planning presentation. Welcome. The topic of my master thesis is the relation between PERMA Lead, relational energy, and job engagement. Before I'll jump into the topic, I'll give you a quick overview about today's agenda. First of all, I would like to outline the importance of the topic. Afterwards, I will present the theoretical background to you, which will lead me to my research question, the hypotheses I have put forward, and the methodology I plan for my study. We are living in a constantly changing and rapidly moving world. Globalization and constant competition are present and demand a lot from us, and also a lot from organizations. For example, organizations need to be innovative, they need to be modern and capable of competing. These high demands have, among other things, of course, effects on employees as well, because they are kind of the engines of the organizations. Therefore, investing in employees' engagement is imperative. At this point, I would like to quickly mention that organizations should, of course, also invest in employees' well-being, for example. For economic reasons, I can only focus on engagement. Furthermore, positive interpersonal interactions are very important and, for example, can cause a better job performance or better job engagement, better well-being in the job, and it can be achieved through relational energy, through the generation and transportation of relational energy. One approach that accounts for those necessities, namely investing in engagement and investing in the generation of relational energy, is positive leadership. In my study, I will focus on one concept of positive leadership, namely PERMA Lead. I will go more in detail about that later. In the following, I will start with the theoretical background of my study, and I think this will make the importance of my topic even clearer to you. So here I have you a little overview about the theoretical background I'm talking about. I'll start by defining what energy is and how and what it impacts. Then I will continue talking about positive leadership and more in detail about PERMA Lead, which is one specific type of positive leadership. And the fourth point is the interaction ritual theory, which is the theoretical basis for the generation and transportation of relational energy. To get us all on the same page, I'll shortly define what energy is. Energy includes positive emotional arousal. It helps us performing in a way that enables us to use our resources and provide performance. Energy can exist short and long term, and there are different types of energy. For example, there's mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy, and all of these energy types are interacting with each other. So they're not independent of each other. What makes energy, among other things, so important is that it's a huge motivational factor in the work context and is very important at the individual, but also at the organizational level. Energetic people, for example, reach their goals earlier. In the context of my master thesis, I am primarily concerned with one subform of energy, which is called relational energy. What is relational energy? It is energy derived from a relational experience, for example, when working together or talking or discussing with each other. And relational energy is connected to feelings of excitement and vitality. Relational energy has various positive effects. For example, it releases resources and allows people to unleash their strength. One effect is particularly interesting for my topic. It is that energetic people can energize others. According to previous research, this can lead to a better job performance or increased capacity to do work when working with an energizer. There was also investigations about relational energy between leaders and their employees. Cameron, for example, found out that employees of energizing leaders show significantly higher well-being, job satisfaction, and job performance. What is also very important is that relational energy is positively related to job engagement. In the following, I will talk a little more about the relation between those two concepts, how they influence each other, and how they are connected. To get us all on the same page, I just want to quickly define what job engagement is. It is the degree to which an employee is receptive to and committed to his or her work. Easier said, job engagement is the extent to which an employee contributes his or her whole self to work. Researchers like, for example, Kahn and Owens found a positive relation between relational energy and job engagement, which constitutes one main foundation of my study. Due to all these positive effects, relational energy is absolutely irreplaceable in the working context. As already briefly mentioned before, one promising way for relational energy and job engagement to arise in the working context is positive leadership. Positive leadership originated from positive psychology, which was established by Martin Seligman in 1998. Positive psychology deals with the positive aspects of life. It explores how well-being can be achieved and how strength can be used best. Positive leadership adapts the models and theories of positive psychology and applicates them to leadership context and topics concerning those. Positive leadership is a resource and strength-oriented approach to leadership and has several streams. So there's no unitary definition of positive leadership. There are a lot of different types of positive leadership. Previous research shows that interpersonal interactions between leaders and employees can create relational energy. Furthermore, research could also show that different positive leadership styles are positively related to the generation of relational energy. So for the record, just to quickly repeat what we've heard so far is that we know that there's a positive relation between positive leadership styles, some positive leadership styles, and relational energy. And we also know that there's a positive relation between relational energy and job engagement. The specific positive leadership style we are investigating, namely PERMA Lead, doesn't have any findings yet concerning this topic. And this is what we are doing. The study will focus on one specific positive leadership style, as already mentioned before, called PERMA Lead. PERMA Lead was established by Mr. Ebner in 2016 and is based on the PERMA model by Seligman. I don't know if you've already heard about the PERMA model. I will just quickly give you an overview about it. The PERMA stands for 5 measurable factors for a person to flourish. So it starts with a P standing for positive emotions, E, engagement, R, relations, M, meaning, and A, accomplishment. PERMA Lead connects these 5 factors to leadership context and uses PERMA to describe how a leader should act in order for his or her employees to flourish. The sixth factor of the model is called lead, and it stands for the strength orientation of the leader. So someone is a positive leader when he or she positively influences the PERMA of his or her employees. To relate what has been shown so far to a theory, I will now introduce you to the interaction ritual theory, which was established by Collins in 1993 and 2004. The theory offers an explanation for the generation and transportation of relational energy. It describes interactions between individuals and their ability to elicit input and feedback of emotional energy generated during the interaction. In these interactions, participants both develop a mutual focus of attention and are entrained by each other's bodily microrhythms and emotions due to emotional energy. Emotional energy is, by the way, a synonym for relational energy. Collins uses the term of emotional energy to describe the energetic activation between the two interactants of the interaction, which they both reciprocally produce and pass on highly contagious. So this experience influences both, on the one hand, the intenseness with which the respective individual experiences his or her emotions, and on the other hand, also the way in which this individual deals with his or her interaction partner in the future. Collins differentiates between two kinds of interaction. He says that in some interactions, energy is produced, whereas in other interactions, energy is dissipated. So there's a loss of energy. One main statement of the interaction ritual theory is that individuals strive to experience interactions of the first kind, which are interactions in which energy is generated, produced. My study offers both theoretical and practical implications. On the one hand, it expands the knowledge about the relation between PERMA Lead, relational energy, and job engagement. Also, it might stimulate further research in this direction. And it is also practically relevant because it can be a point of reference for organizations and leaders on what optimal leadership behavior can look like in order to ensure that relational energy is generated and organizational members are engaged. So now that I have given you an insight into the theoretical background of the study, I am coming to the research question and the hypotheses. My research question is how a leader's PERMA leadership behavior is related to relational energy and job engagement. I'll further specify this in the following hypotheses. My first hypothesis assumes that PERMA Lead, from the employee's perspective, is positively related to the generation of relational energy, A, between the respective leader and the respective employee, and B, among employees. The second hypothesis assumes that relational energy is a mediating variable between PERMA Lead and the job engagement of the employees. Let's talk about the methodology of the study. I will explain to you how I will collect the data. Let's talk about the measures I'll be using. Of course, I will inquire some demographic variables. The following: gender, age, location, education, and several questions concerning the work of the participants. Now I'll give you a short overview of the scales I'll use. I'll use the Relational Energy Scale by Owens and colleagues from 2016 to obviously measure relational energy. The scale consists of 5 7-point scale items from 1 strongly disagree to 7 strongly agree. For example, one item is I feel invigorated when I interact with this person. To test hypothesis 1A, which concerns the presence of relational energy between the respective leader and the employee, I will use the original form of the scale. So the employee is asked to rate the items when thinking about his or her leader. To test for the presence of relational energy among the employees, which is hypothesis 1B, I will use a slightly modified form. At first, I will ask the participants with how many colleagues they work with regularly. Just want to know how many of them it is. And afterwards, the scale will be presented to them, and then they have to evaluate the items in relation to these colleagues they talked about before or they answered a question about before. The second scale I'm using is the PERMA Lead profiler by Ebner from 2016 as well. It scales the PERMA Lead behavior of the leader from the employee's perspective. So the employee is rating his or her leader. The scale measures the 5 factors of the PERMA Lead model, which I explained to you before. Each factor is tested with 3 items, which makes a total of 15 items. The scale goes from 0% to 100% in steps of 10. One item of the factor engagement is, for example, my manager deliberately gives me tasks that correspond with my individual strength. In order to measure job engagement, I will use the UWES-9 work engagement scale by Schaufeli et colleagues from 2006. It has 9 items on a 7-point Likert scale from 0, never, to 6, always, every day. An example item here is I am immersed in my work. Concerning the statistical analysis, I planned the following. In order to test hypothesis 1A and 1B, I want to calculate a regression analysis. And in order to test hypothesis 2, I will execute a mediation analysis. Furthermore, I will control exploratively whether there are group differences depending on, for example, gender, age, education. Yeah. So now I am at the end of my presentation. I am looking forward to your feedback and to any tips you have for me. Thank you very much for your attention, and attached you'll find the sources. Have a good